In the heart of a vibrant African empire, a legacy of wealth and power stood unrivaled. But behind the gilded walls, a sinister plot was brewing. The siblings, consumed by an insatiable hunger for control, were about to betray everything their family had built, igniting a war that would forever stain their prosperous name. If you love powerful African stories that teach deep life lessons, don't forget to subscribe. These are not just stories, they are warnings, wisdom, and history brought to life. In the heart of the great savannah stood the Golden Dynasty, a kingdom born from fertile ancestral lands. Its cities gleamed with red clay walls, gold-trimmed gates, and bustling markets filled with laughter. Generations before, wise elders had made covenants with the land and spirits. Those covenants brought rain in dry seasons and peace in troubled times. Songs of unity echoed through royal courtyards every dawn. The dynasty became known across regions for justice and innovation. Traders traveled far to witness its prosperity. For decades, nothing threatened its harmony. At the center of this empire ruled King Zola, a man shaped by wisdom and restraint. His voice carried authority without cruelty. He believed leadership was service, not dominance. By his side stood his two children, Princess Onya and Prince Ola. Both were brilliant, educated in warfare, diplomacy, and sacred traditions. The people admired Onya's sharp mind and compassion. They respected Ola's bold courage and strategic thinking. Together, they were seen as the future. The land itself was sacred to the dynasty and never treated as mere property. Each river, hill, and forest carried ancestral memory. Rituals were performed before planting or building. The ancestors were honored through festivals, drums, and libations. Unity among the people was believed to keep the spirits pleased. Disrespect to land or bloodlines was forbidden. For years, these customs guided the kingdom's success. Children grew up knowing the price of greed, yet tradition slowly began to weaken. Whispers first entered the palace like harmless wind. Advisors spoke privately to Ola about strength and dominance. Others praised Onya's intelligence, but questioned her patience. Comparisons replaced cooperation between the siblings. Friendly debates turned into silent rivalries. Each began to imagine ruling alone. Their smiles at court masked growing resentment. The communal vision started to fade. Ambition quietly took its place. The first visible crack appeared during a land dispute with a neighboring village. The villagers claimed ancestral rights older than the dynasty itself. Ola demanded immediate seizure to display power. Onya urged dialogue and spiritual consultation. King Zola delayed judgment, seeking balance. Ola interpreted this as weakness. Onya felt unheard and sidelined. The court became divided in opinion. Trust between the siblings thinned. Soon after, Onya began secret correspondence with a powerful neighboring ruler. The alliance was presented as protection for the dynasty. Gifts were exchanged under the cover of diplomacy. Advisors loyal to Onya encouraged the arrangement. Slowly, the alliance shifted from defense to opportunity. Promises of shared rule and expanded influence were whispered. Onya felt validated and empowered. She did not see the trap forming. The ancestors were never consulted. King Zola sensed unrest, but underestimated its depth. To secure the future, he announced the Great Land Decree. The decree redistributed lands to reduce inequality and prevent conflict. Many praised the decision as wise. Ola saw it as a threat to his authority. Onya saw it as a delay to our plans. Both believed the king no longer understood power. The decree ignited open defiance. The royal household fractured. The trial of allegiance was called before the entire kingdom. Chiefs, warriors, and priests gathered in the grand square. King Zola demanded loyalty to crown and tradition. Ola openly challenged the decree as reckless. Onya accused the king of clinging to outdated customs. Gasps echoed through the crowd. Never before had royal blood spoken so boldly. The trial turned into public humiliation. The kingdom watched its foundation crack. Anger spread like wildfire across the land. Supporters formed camps aligned with each sibling. Sacred grounds were turned into battlegrounds. Brothers fought brothers in the name of loyalty. Crops burned while villages fled. Drums of celebration became drums of war. King Zola retreated in grief and silence. The ancestors were disturbed by the bloodshed. The land itself seemed to mourn. Civil strife tore the kingdom apart within months. Trade routes collapsed under constant raids. Famine followed swiftly behind fear. Children wandered without homes. Elders wept over desecrated shrines. The once golden cities fell into ruin. Onya and Ola blamed each other endlessly. Neither took responsibility for the suffering. Their greed blinded them to reality. The dynasty was no more. When King Zola died in isolation, no proper rites were performed. His spirit was denied peaceful passage. The earth trembled the night of his burial. Elders warned of dire consequences. Onya seized the eastern territories by force. Ola claimed the western lands with brutal authority. The kingdom was officially divided. What remained was fear and resentment. The ancestors watched in silence. Onya's reign began with promises of reform and prosperity. She relied heavily on foreign allies. Gold flowed out of the land faster than it came in. Sacred forests were cut down for expansion. Priests who warned her were exiled. The people grew restless and hungry. Faith in leadership eroded daily. Her throne stood on borrowed power. Stability slipped through her fingers. Ola ruled with iron command and constant warfare. He valued obedience above wisdom. Taxes increased to fund endless campaigns. Villages rebelled and were crushed without mercy. Sacred festivals were banned as distractions. Fear replaced loyalty among his subjects. Even his generals began to doubt him. The land resisted his control. Nothing flourished under his rule. Attempts to reunite the kingdom failed repeatedly. Negotiations collapsed under mistrust. Old friendships were poisoned beyond repair. The social fabric unraveled completely. Traditions once binding communities were forgotten. Children grew up without shared identity. The dynasty's name became a warning tale. The ancestors remained silent but restless. Their patience was thinning. The people began to tell stories of strange omens. Rivers changed course without rain. Crops failed despite fertile soil. Night winds carried unfamiliar whispers. Elders spoke of ancestral anger. Sacred drums cracked during rituals. Dreams of fire and broken crowns spread. The land rejected its rulers. Something ancient was awakening. Judgment loomed. Onya dismissed the signs as superstition. Ola mocked the elders openly. Both doubled down on control and conquest. Neither sought forgiveness nor unity. The ancestors were insulted by arrogance. Forgotten rituals cried out for remembrance. The earth itself responded with unrest. Cracks formed in palace walls. Darkness crept closer each night. The reckoning had begun. Villagers fled to mountains and forests. They sought refuge near ancestral shrines. Prayers were whispered in forgotten tongues. Offerings were made without royal blessing. The spirits listened to the common people. Power began shifting away from the throne. Dreams became clearer and more urgent. The ancestors prepared to act. History stood at a turning point. Strange illnesses struck royal households. Healers failed despite their skills. Fires broke out without cause. Armies reported seeing shadows on battlefields. Courage dissolved into fear. Soldiers deserted in masses. Whispers of ancestral wrath spread rapidly. No decree could stop it. The land itself rejected division. The past demanded justice. Onya and Ola sensed control slipping away. Panic replaced confidence in their courts. Advisors disappeared overnight. Foreign allies withdrew in silence. The siblings ruled isolated and afraid. Their greed had bought them nothing. The dynasty's legacy lay in ruins. The ancestors were no longer silent. Retribution was near. Thus ended the golden age of the dynasty. What followed was not merely punishment, but correction. The land prepared to reclaim its balance. Blood and betrayal had gone unanswered too long. The ancestors rose through wind, dream, and soil. Their response would reshape everything. A new chapter waited beyond suffering. The kingdom would face its past. Judgment was inevitable. The first ancestral sign appeared at dawn. Royal drums began beating without human hands. The rhythm matched ancient war songs. Elders fell to their knees in recognition. The sound traveled across divided lands. Both kingdoms heard it clearly. Fear spread faster than fire. The ancestors had returned. There would be no escape. Anya dreamed of her father standing in fire. His voice carried both sorrow and command. He spoke of broken covenants and stolen land. Ola saw visions of warriors rising from the soil. Spears of light blocked his armies. Neither could sleep in peace. The dreams grew stronger each night. The ancestors demanded remembrance. Guilt weighed heavily on both rulers. Rivers flooded only royal farmlands. Markets collapsed under sudden storms. Palaces echoed with unseen footsteps. Priests who were exiled returned uninvited. They spoke with voices not their own. The message was clear and unified. The land rejected divided rule. Blood alone could not heal it. A deeper sacrifice was required. The ancestors would decide. Rebellions erupted simultaneously in both kingdoms. Soldiers laid down weapons in fear. Common people rose guided by dreams. They carried no banners of Anya or Ola. Instead, they carried ancestral symbols. Unity returned among the oppressed. The siblings realized too late their loss of control. Thrones stood empty in spirit. Power had shifted fully. The ancestors now ruled. Anya attempted one final alliance to save herself. The foreign kingdom refused her plea. Ola tried to crush the rebellion with force. His army vanished into ancestral fog. Both were left defenseless. Isolation became their punishment. Pride turned into desperation. The land offered no refuge. Judgment stood before them. Their greed was fully exposed. Elders gathered the people at sacred grounds. Ancient rites were performed after generations of neglect. Libations soaked the earth. Drums called spirits by name. The ancestors responded through wind and flame. They demanded confession and surrender. No crown could be spared. Only humility would restore balance. The kingdom listened as one. Healing required truth. Anya was the first to kneel publicly. She confessed betrayal and ambition. Tears fell onto sacred soil. Ola followed, broken and defeated. His voice trembled with regret. The people watched in silence. The ancestors accepted the confession, but forgiveness required consequence. Power was stripped from bloodlines. The dynasty was ended. The siblings were exiled from the land. They were forbidden from ruling ever again. Their names were removed from royal chants. History would remember their failure. The land breathed easier without them. Crops began to grow once more. Rivers returned to their paths. Children laughed again in villages. Balance slowly returned. A council of elders replaced the throne. Leadership became communal once more. Decisions were guided by tradition and consultation. The ancestors were honored in every action. Land was no longer divided for greed. Unity became law, not slogan. The kingdom healed through humility. Power served the people again. The past guided the future. Songs were written about the fallen dynasty. They carried warnings for generations. Greed was named the true enemy. Unity was praised as sacred strength. Children learned these stories by firelight. The land listened and remembered. The ancestors rested once more. Peace returned without crowns. Wisdom replaced ambition. Anya and Ola lived in obscurity beyond the borders. They witnessed prosperity they no longer owned. Regret followed them like shadow. Their punishment was memory without power. The ancestors allowed them life, not legacy. Reflection became their only teacher. Their fall became the kingdom's lesson. History had corrected itself. Balance was restored. The people rebuilt with reverence for the land. Shrines were restored and festivals revived. Unity replaced fear as foundation. The dynasty's gold no longer defined wealth. Integrity and harmony did. The ancestors were honored, not feared. Leadership became responsibility again. The kingdom found strength in togetherness. The scars became wisdom. Elders reminded the youth of the divided kingdom. They spoke of how greed blinded royalty. They emphasized the cost paid by innocence. Stories kept the memory alive. Forgetting was the true danger. The land listened to these lessons. The ancestors approved in silence. Balance was maintained through remembrance. History remained alive. The empire never returned to its former grandeur. Yet it gained something greater. Peace replaced excess. Unity replaced dominance. The land thrived under care, not conquest. The people flourished without crowns. The ancestors watched Comrie once more. The cycle was complete. Greed had been corrected. Wisdom endured. Thus the kingdom learned its final lesson. Wealth without ethics leads to ruin. Power without unity invites destruction. The ancestors protect balance, not ambition. Leadership must honor land and people. Every choice echoes through generations. The past always watches the present. The land remembers everything. And justice, though patient, always arrives.